Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Harmony, your podcast host. And on today's episode, I have the wonderful Sharon Joy, and she is going to be talking all about your soul mode. Sharon is a teacher, a speaker, a coach, and a certified soul modes mentor, and an all-round awesome lady. I actually met Sharon at a women's business retreat and we just clicked. She is the type of girl that you feel like you have been friends with for ages. She is warm, engaging, and intuitive. At the retreat, when I found out that she was a certified soul modes mentor, I asked her all about it, as I had heard a few ladies talking about the different modes, referring to bear mode and sparkle mode and all of the other ones, super mode, wild mode, but I really had no idea what they were talking about. So I was really interested to learn more, and I read the book, and like many women, I could relate to a lot of the philosophy, but I thought that there could be some more depth shed on the modes. And so with that, I wanted to bring Sharon onto the podcast to talk about the different soul modes and patterns of flow that each of us women go through in life. So welcome to the podcast, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me. I always start my podcast with my rapid inspiration questions, but I'm going to throw one in there. What soul mode are you in at the moment?
Right now, I think I would probably be in super mode.
Oh, yeah.
Getting the stuff done.
Oh, amazing. Good. You can take the lead then, because I actually feel like I'm in bear mode. So
we better tell the listeners what we're actually talking about, because they might be like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. We will get to that. But with the rest of the rapid inspiration questions, can you inspire us with what your superpower is?
I think my superpower is really helping women balance between their masculine and their feminine energy. That is definitely my superpower. Seeing both in them and helping them cultivate both equally so that they can move the needle.
Beautiful. Balancing the yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang, the strategy and the alchemy, the systems and the soul, all the things.
Love it. And what is your favorite quote or mantra?
You are only ever one decision away from a completely different life would have to be my favorite saying. It was something that I held on to in 2017 when I made a split decision to completely flip my life from being a teacher in Sydney to traveling with my family in a caravan and then making a complete career change. So I believe that to be very true. One small decision away from a completely different life.
Yeah, I love that. And how fun traveling around with your family.
It was a ride. It was definitely a ride. I love being home now in bricks and mortar. I also, still love to travel, not doing a lot of that at the moment, but, really it's given me such an appreciation for, having things like a lounge room just to recline back on my lounge and, my children understanding the joys of home life equally as adventure. So it's been wonderful.
Oh, great. And who or what is inspiring you at the moment?
Oh, actually probably my clients, to be honest. Just seeing, them do the work and digging deep. I think it's a difficult time in the world that we're moving through at the moment, being business owners through this period of time. I believe that we were chosen to be here right now. But, I'm really inspired by women in business who are just doing the things and, maybe they're homeschooling right now. Maybe, they're doing it alone. All of the things that they're doing, I'm so inspired by women in business.
Beautiful. And in one sentence, what would an inspired life look or feel like to you?
The one I'm living.
Yay!
The one that I'm living, I'm living the life that I dreamed about 5 years ago. And if someone had told me that it would be the way that it is right now, I never, ever would have believed them. So I don't take anything for granted, and I continue to be inspired and not to say that this is a destination, it's only ever a journey, but I truly believe that I'm living that inspired life for sure.
Brilliant. I love that. Well, we'll get into the main part of the podcast, and we are here talking about the feminine and the masculine energies and soul modes and what they are and what they mean. So I would love for you to share with our listeners, first of all, what are the soul modes?
What are soul modes? It's definitely a question that I get asked quite often. I'm not the creator or discoverer of soul modes. It was discovered by a lady called Carly Marie, and she wrote the book Soul Modes. Basically, what they are is it's an energetic sequence that feminine core beings cycle through, and it doesn't align with the lunar cycle or our menstrual cycle. It's an individual energetic cycle that we flow through very naturally. And it's why some days, women want to do all of the things and be on top of their game. And then other days they maybe just want to hide under the doona. And then that often in society has us believe that we're crazy or we're inconsistent or not able to keep up. And so often it has us change what we are choosing to do in our life because we've made up this story that we're not normal or something's wrong with us. And in fact, if we just lean in and understand that, every day we're not going to be the same. We're sometimes not even going to be the same hour to hour. Our soul modes can shift very quickly, or perhaps we can have longer seasons of modes that last for a bit longer. So it's really the way that we have peaks and troughs in our energy. And with the soul modes, there is an order that they always seem to go in. And sometimes people will say, oh, I don't experience this mode or that mode. But when they really start to track and tune into those modes, then they tend to realize that there are individual characteristics to certain modes, but there's definitely a pattern across most women I speak to, and everybody I've ever introduced this discipline to, they have definitely, or modality to, they definitely have resonated with it if they're a feminine core being.
Beautiful. So could you just go through the 4 different modes for us?
Yeah, so wild mode, and she's usually the one who leads the way. She's definitely the controller of ourselves. She's the one that knows the depth of our higher self, and she's the one that's a little bit feisty in that she really wants us to drive our life forward. Then we have bear mode, and obviously that's when we take a dip in our energy and we might feel perhaps more quiet. We might not want to move our body as much. We might feel tired. Thoughts might come to the surface that we perhaps aren't what we should be. A bit of comparison syndrome coming through there in bear mode quite often. Then we have super mode, and super mode is usually where, we're very motivated by getting things done and quite task orientated in super mode. And then the final mode is sparkle mode. And that's when we're really in our full feminine, lots of that oxytocin flowing. It might be times where, we'll look at little Johnny who's making a mess there at the kitchen bench and think, oh, isn't he cute? And in probably every other mode, we just about do a flip. But sparkle mode is when, we feel kinds of loved up and really, I guess the sun just shines a little bit brighter.
Absolutely. I really resonated with a lot of the book. I think like any female would, because we as females are very cyclical beings. And so with that, I obviously resonated with the different cycles. I mean, we all feel different at different days, and we're very cyclical with our hormones as well. We have, just like the modes, there is the 4 stages of our menstrual cycle. And I know you said it doesn't correlate quite, cycle for mode, but just to get my head around it, I really did compare it to some of those the 4 stages of the cycle. And I know, like, for me, the menstrual phase, where your progesterone progesterone plummets, and so does your energy. That really sort of resonated with me as being in like that bear mode. And the follicular stage, which is after our menstruation, that's when our estrogen and our testosterone, they start to increase. And so does your mood and your energy and your enthusiasm, and you're ready to like get things done. So I sort of liken that to super mode. And then when you go into the ovulatory phase, where our estrogen and our testosterone actually peak, you feel like really confident and you want to like look good and look a bit sexy and go out and feel great and socialize. And that's sort of what I associated with sparkle mode. And then the luteal phase is when our estrogen and our progesterone, they start to decline, but our progesterone starts to incline. And in this phase, towards the end of it, you might get some of those PMS type symptoms. And then I kind of associated, well, that would be wild mode. So yeah. I think it is a really, the soul modes is a really great concept. It is like a basic concept because we are all cyclical beings, especially being female, with this like natural cycle within us. And then I also sort of really like with Ayurveda, we look at the doshas. Now there's only 3 doshas, which are Vata, Pitta and Kapha, but a lot of the modes spoke really strongly to those. I think super mode and wild mode, that being sort of like when our Pitta dosha is more prevalent within us. So that really can be really fiery in nature, but can also be really progressive and transformational and just get stuff done. And then Vata was like the sparkly mode. They're very creative and very social. They love a chat. And then again, bear mode was sort of like the Kapha dosha, which can be very grounded, really go inwards, have those tendency to more lethargy and sort of the downer, darker days, but also really good structure and stability as well. So I guess just from a women's health, because I work with hormonal health and I love to sort of link everything with Ayurveda, the doshas and hormonal and women's health, that's just sort of how I saw the modes play out in my life as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Harmony. I mean, there's so many cycles, you know, particularly women, we are cyclical beings. And one of the things that I have really found is that soul modes definitely is influenced by so many other cycles that we have. It's like layer upon layer upon layer. You know, we have the soul mode cycle, but we do have the menstrual cycle, the lunar cycle. We also have even the seasons. Like I have found that, you know, each winter since I've been aware of bear mode, of the soul modes, that I've had quite a deep winter bear mode that has been the most difficult and challenging of the modes, my bear modes across the year. So I do think that there's definitely layers of cycles that we experience for sure.
Absolutely. And so how are you using the modes to impact your life? Like you mentioned just then that, you know, you've noticed in winter you sort of use that time, I guess, to go inwards and just to chill out a bit, as opposed to pushing through all of the seasons like they were summer or spring or whatever your favorite season is. So how are you using it in other ways in your life?
Yeah, great question. Look, I'm a lot kinder to myself than I've ever been before. So I really was one of those women who would continue to push on through and not be aware of the fact that actually today it's just not going to happen for me. I'll be fine tomorrow. I used to really scratch my head and think, what's wrong with me? Why is it one day that I can do all the things and then the next day I can't? And that was even still, you know, taking into consideration my menstrual cycle. I was well aware of where I was in that. I was quite tuned in. But even still knowing that, I have found that that's probably how it's played out in my life, is I'm a lot kinder to myself. And I'm also a lot more understanding of other women as well, or feminine core beings per se, in that I understand that sometimes we might perceive people to be different, like why they're like this one day and then they're different another. But now I see that as, oh, they're just in a different mode. I don't make up stories in my head around that, oh, they weren't very talkative today or whatever. I can just simply go, yep, awesome. Or, if I'm feeling flat and somebody is, feeling and looking amazing, then I'm not triggered by that anymore, because I know that they're in sparkle, I'm in bear, and that is going to keep moving around and changing. And that's absolutely acceptable. In terms of just managing life, I know that I can use 3 of my modes to really support me when I'm particularly in bear mode, which is when we're at our energetic low point. So, we can use our modes to just help and support us. So when we are feeling low, that it's sort of like the other modes of taking care of it for us before it comes around. So things like that make life a whole lot easier. When I'm in a mode to be able just to get all the things done, then I don't feel as bad when bear mode comes around and I'm tapping out.
Yeah, I know we forget that, we can allow ourselves to just be in that sort of mode and appreciate being in that mode. We don't always have to push through. And it is hard, like, especially when I look at it through the Ayurvedic lens, like when you're a sort of a pitta type personality, especially when it comes to your business and your work, is that, you have that desire to achieve and goal orientated and need to move through the like just keep pushing through to get everything done. But I guess when we look at everything in nature, everything goes in a cycle, and we as women and as human beings, we are not excluded from that, but we have sort of ignored that fact for so long and just keep pushing through and just keep going, like, in that revolving door, round and round and round. And that is why I think burnout is just so prevalent these days. I know we do have a lot of other things going on around us that's contributing to that, but just not noticing where you are in your own innate cycle. And I think it really helps to connect to self on a deeper level. So understanding your body, understanding your mind, understanding how your modes work, it's just magical to be able to do that. So, and I loved how you were talking about it helps you to not compare to other people. I think that is so important, and it's such a great take home, because exactly, like that sparkly, beautiful lady that's just like, yay, like I said at the start of this episode, like, I'm in bear mode. I'm actually like feeling really sort of tired at the moment and just sort of like I should just be really chilling out. And so, when everyone's sort of running past me and all energetic, I'm like, I'm usually like that. Why can't I be like that? What's wrong with me? But now I'm just like, it'll pass. Like, I'm just in this chill mode, and it's good, and allow myself to be. I don't need to compare to all of the other sparkly super women, because I know my turn's coming. My mood's coming
absolutely up. And the more that we've leaned into that, the more that we just get that opportunity to remind ourselves that it's okay. This is not it. Like, this is not going to stay this way in any mode, so it just allows us to plan our life better around it. And, it means that we're just more forgiving. Just more forgiving of others, more forgiving of ourselves, which makes for a happier life, right?
Totally. And I think that's the key, more forgiving, because like, even though I've said I'm in bear mode, I already had multiple podcasts scheduled today. So obviously I go ahead with them, but I'm more forgiving to myself. Like, if I'm mumbling my words a little, sorry, but I'm in bear mode. Or if I'm going to, like, once I've done all the recordings and got that sorted, like, just chill out in the afternoon, instead of like working to the minute I have to get the kids. And I'm just a lot more forgiving with myself and understanding with myself, knowing that.
And that is really common, that you identified, that bumbling over our words and things. Our brains really do process a lot slower in bear mode, which also is a big driver for the types of tasks that we should be tackling when we're in that kind of a mode. And that means that if, like, you're going to get this done because obviously you've got podcast guests lined up, but you probably don't want to go and start to tackle your business numbers.
Yeah.
That you get to tap out. It's actually, that's not a task for today. And, replace that with something that might be a more menial task, and that's a really good feeling, is I know more about how my brain works in the modes, and I know what tasks I enjoy and what tasks light me up in each mode. So that's a really valuable thing to know, just again, because it makes for a happier life.
Absolutely. And so you are a business coach for soul-led women.
Yes.
How are you implementing this knowledge into your business strategy with your women, your clients?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest way that I do is to really just help my clients cultivate their masculine. A lot of my clients are feminine core beings. All of them are feminine core beings, but they are very much in their feminine, which means that they spend a lot of time swirling, and often not actually having those cultivated masculine structures in their business that allow them to do all the things. But here's the background. Back when I first started out in business, I learnt business from a business school. It was very masculine. It was, you must do this, you must do that. And then I went the other direction and I learned more of the feminine way. But for me, what I found in that space is I was completely swirling, that there was no structure or anything that I could anchor myself to. So I've made it my mission to really bring women into the center. And by that, they can make sure that they have a cultivated masculine to help them get the things done, but still be able to have the freedom to swirl within that container. And so we use soul modes probably more than anything as just a communication piece. So, if I'm checking in with clients, how you're feeling, then usually they'll repeat that back to me in a mode. And that way there's really not a lot more conversation needed. I don't need an explanation, because it tells me a whole lot about, what they're feeling, their energy level, the type of tasks or conversations that they might want to tackle in those sessions. And therefore it makes a lot of stuff a lot easier for both of us. So that's probably how I use it. But certainly, using the modes to be able, super mode is out when we're in our full masculine, really, as feminine core beings. Super mode is when we are in our full masculine. And that's really when, I help those clients to scaffold things in their business so that when they're in bear or when they're in sparkle and they're really off, in that airspace, floating all over the place, which is beautiful and lovely. And we absolutely love that. Then, yeah, exactly. They still have the anchors then. They still have those pillars underneath them that they can anchor themselves, and they don't feel all out at sea. So that's really how I use it with my soul-led business clients.
Yeah, brilliant. And you've just launched a program, the Clarity Container.
Mm-hmm.
Are you, I guess, weaving the soul modes into that, or how do you want to speak on Clarity Container?
Yeah, sure. So, Clarity is my 8-pillar system to help soul-led business women get clear and turn a profit. Essentially, that's what it's for. And I guess it's probably not a soul modes element to it, but it's more around the strategy and the alchemy. That's where I sit on that continuum. So, certainly, a lot of my clients are very aware of what the modes are. They've read the book. I gift the book a lot to my clients so that they at least understand it. It's part of, I guess, the overall frame of what it looks like to work with me. But it's just one small piece of the puzzle in my business, and usually more than anything used as a communication piece rather than a teaching piece.
Yeah, brilliant. And with Clarity, I guess, so there's a lot of women that may be listening to this, and just in general, with everything that's going around, going on in the world, I felt that women are really feeling a little bit lost and a little bit confused with the trajectory of sort of life and what lays ahead of them, whether that be in their business or just their home life or just in general. And that can really sort of blanket our clarity as to who we are and what we want in life. Would you be able to speak on that and maybe just give some tips around sort of clarity of self?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, in that, step one is connect to vision. It's coming back to self. It's coming back to what we want and who we're becoming, and who we are and how we can get there. And sometimes that means changing careers. Sometimes that means getting help with your health, right? Sorting out your hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that is a huge part. Sorting out your gut health. Often these are the pieces that are missing. And when we tune in and connect to our bigger life vision, then that is always the start of anything. It's always the start of any journey, is actually getting clear about what it is that we want. And there's obviously a whole range of things that we can do to help access that. But one of them is sometimes starting with actually addressing our health, because when we feel better, we have better clarity of mind, and then our performance improves in whatever areas of life we're talking about. It's a catalyst for everything. So that is pretty huge. It's definitely a way that, I recommend to my clients to address one of those things is one piece of the bigger picture. But connecting to our vision and is always the first step, always.
Exactly. Yeah, the mind and the body, they're so intricately connected, so we can't sort of separate the two. I honestly believe that too. Like, if you feel really well within your body, then your mind will feel really well. And I definitely wholeheartedly agree with that. And also just connecting to your vision. And I suppose that a few ways you could do that, just for our listeners, might be taking some time out to journal and ask yourself those big questions, those hard questions, like, what do you really want out of life? Like, how do you want to feel? What do you want to do? And the answers might surprise you.
Absolutely. And I would also say, one of the things is often we can do these things for ourselves, but actually being in containers with people who can hold that for you is invaluable. And, I know that there's been times over the last few months where, whether it be in business, in life, in my health, whatever it may be, I know the answers, but the power of having someone hold that container for me while I work through it, instead of having to ask the questions myself, somebody else is asking the questions of me, is incredibly powerful. So even if people have, perhaps hit a low and they know the steps to get out, that's fine if you do, and you can absolutely access that. But if you're struggling, reach out to somebody. I mean, like yourself, Harmony, like it's so invaluable to have people hold that container and ask those questions for us.
So true. I mean, even we met in a container.
We did.
And we're in the same sort of business coaching group and everything. Yeah, so it's not only being kept accountable and being supported, but the beautiful and amazing people and connections that you meet within that container, because it brings people together that are trying to combat similar types of issues. So
absolutely
100% agree. Would you love to share where the listeners can find you if they would love to work with you?
Absolutely. Yes, over at sharonjoycoaching.com. Or if you need a website, you have a soul-led business, then you can also find me over at studioofsoul.co.
I love that name.
Well, speaks to my clients and what I do. But I create and coach, coaches, consultants, creatives, healers, and spiritual women. So you can definitely find me in all the places and spaces on those two channels.
Yeah, and she has a beautiful Instagram too, at Sharon Joy Coaching.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sharon. As always, it's been a pleasure to be connecting with you. And
likewise,
like I said, you are just an all-round awesome woman.
Oh, ditto. Right back at you, beautiful lady. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.